Gamer7, and welcome back to some more Sims for Creator Sim, and particularly the series where I turn my D&D characters' creations into Sims, or at least try to. So yeah, welcome back if you have seen some of the previous characters, and if not, there's a link down in the description below, as well as at the end of the video, because for the most part, you don't really have to watch these in any particular order. Sometimes I will reference back to a previous character in the, just talking about this character, but you don't necessarily need to actually watch that previous one or one of the previous ones. Anyway, so yeah, you could wait till the end of this video and click on the little thumbnail at the end, or you can click on the link in the description below to the playlist so you can go watch any of them that you've missed. But anyway, let's continue on with today's character, which by now you should start being able to see the drawing, which I hand drew myself and am using to base off the sim. Well, using to try to create the sim. So, this lovely character here is Muse, with Muse, and her last name's, Fenne, like the Fennec Fox, because basically I did use the Fennec Fox as inspiration for certain details of this character, so that is the last name that I gave her. The race would be the Kitsune, which is technically a homebrew race for D&D. It is not an official race, and I did come across one thing that I was using for, the homebrew stuff and things like that, and they technically are supposed to have a, in that description and stuff like that. I know Kitsunes actually are part of, I'm gonna sound real stupid because I'm pretty sure it's Japan, but for some reason my brain is, second-guessing myself. I think it's just because, I'm what if you're wrong? Everyone's gonna make fun of you. The part of my brain that just likes to be very anxious and nervous and overthink about a lot of things. But anyway, so yeah, it is part of a mythological lore, and I'm sure the homebrew is based off of them a lot, but I don't think completely from what I got. But the one that I used, they're supposed to have, a true name versus a name that they tell others and stuff like that, and her true name is actually Nan. Obviously in Sims, that won't be affected any because there is no option to, what is your actual name? Do you have a nickname and I could just flavor it like that? No, can't do any of that. So, that's not gonna matter for Sims here, but anyway, just thought I'd let you know. The character is, obviously, she is a female. She is about the height of 5'1", and she is the age of 24, which I think, if I remember correctly, the homebrew, I have this pinned on my phone somewhere, the homebrew for this, the one that I was using, they relatively age about the same as humans, so 24 is about what a 24 human would be, so around in that area. She is a cleric and a bard, but mostly a bard. I'm gonna if I ever get a chance to actually play her, or I make her an NPC if I ever actually attempt to DM at some point in time, she will have more levels in bard than she will have in cleric. Her subclasses are the Peace Domain for the Cleric, and then College of the Dancer for Bard, which is another homebrew, because ultimately I really wanted her to be like a dancer, and a lot of her stuff is more through body movement and dancing and things like that, and her weapon I love, but as you could tell, with some of her details and things like that, she's got, a lot of, if you look at when the drawing was up, there's a lot of stuff that I put on her outfit that is very movement-based, and that is because she is a dancer, and that is to show movement. Also, I partially imagine, I have, these little ribbon string things hanging off from underneath, the main skirt, and there's, these little diamond pieces. Part of me wants to imagine that those are slightly sharp, and if she is dancing close enough to an enemy, that it might have a small chance to actually nick them. But, anyway, that is just my imagination in my head. But it is basically to show movement and reflect into dancing and stuff like that. So that is a lot of her design elements. She is one of the characters whose their weapon is not drawn on the same page as her, because I ended up taking up a lot of the page with her alone, and then the type of weapon that she has would have taken up quite a bit of page as well, and her weapon is actually based off of a weapon that is from a character in Soul Calibur that I absolutely love. I love this character so much, and I love their weapon. and I immediately wanted to use it when I started thinking about her being a dancer. And it has a name, but it is basically a large circle, a hula hoop, if to give you a reference of how, like, the size is comparatively. But it is actually a blade. Now, for me, I definitely think the outside of the blade is much sharper than the inside of the blade, but I still want to imagine that the inside of the blade has some sharpness to it. But in the case of Muse here, I want to say she has a guard that she puts on it, because she actually uses this weapon in her dances sometimes, like, even if she's, like, not doing it in a battle sense of way, just doing it for an entertainment sense. Because I really do imagine that she would do that, especially at the very beginning of her journey. That's probably how she got some of her money, trying to do dances on the side, here and there, trying to earn money for travels and to explore. So, you know, she would just do some street performance and dance with her hula hoop of death. But I imagine she has a guard that she puts on it when she uses it for dancing, and then takes the guard off whenever she is using it for battle. I technically did draw her with, like, wrappings around of her hand, as, like, sometimes she makes mistakes, sometimes she grabs a part of the weapon, and, like, probably her skin's starting to get tough right there as well, so, you know, over time it doesn't hurt her as much because her skin starts getting used to the weapon in that same spot. And she always keeps, like, something wrapped around there just as an extra precautionary measure, just in case. Now, one of Muse's goals is to sort of basically try to portray that her people are not all schemy and they're not all bad and sneakative and things like that. But I still actually want to make her just a little bit sneaky, just a little bit, like, you know, she's got to try to live. So when it comes to referencing her back into Sims, if you've already looked at her traits, I did give her the world famous celebrity, because she does want to entertain people. That is a big thing. She wants to draw in large crowds with her dancing, and I want to imagine some of her dances are like a traditional thing that comes from, like, her group of people and stuff like that, but she wants to show them off to the world. So I did give her the world famous celebrity aspiration, and the traits that I want to give her. And remember, I do want to actually try and add a mod that allows for 5 traits. Last time I checked, that mod still should be good to work, but I always will say, just in case, because when it comes to mods, the thing is, especially with Sims updating so much, sometimes it's a lot for modders to keep things up to date, and, you know, some mods don't require much updating because the way they work doesn't get affected too much, but then some mods require updating in almost every single little update that the Sims games does, and any pack that gets added to the game on top of that. So yeah, depending on, you know, sort of those things, but this type of mod is one of the mods that I have a feeling doesn't have to be updated too often. But yeah, I just like to be prepared, so I made sure to give them the 3 traits that I most wanted them to have, and the other 2 traits will be added on after I put that mod in, and hopefully it works. But right now, she has mainly the cheerful trait, the music lover trait, and the dance machine, all because, you know, she does like music, she's a dancer, that is her whole, like, premise, and I do imagine her to be very actually kind and cheerful and, like, happy and all that stuff. So it fit really well and made most sense to prioritize those 3. But I also do want to give her the outgoing trait, sort of linking to those 2. But the 5th one I am wanting to give her is adding a little bit of that sneakiness in, because I do know kitsunes tend to be slightly sneaky and stuff, and they do have, like, there's, like, some ongoing, like, conflict or something in between them and, Tanukis. So yeah, which I will be potentially giving her the kleptomaniac trait. So there still is a little bit of cheekiness, but she's trying to prove that it's not all bad and that it's tolerable. So that is, like, her whole goal in life here. But she actually is one of the ones that meets up with a few of the other characters that I've already created, which is going to be Serena, Minka, Forsythia, and there is a 5th one that has not been created yet, or at least not, the video hasn't been put up yet. So, I think hers is actually next. So, the group shots, because I am doing any of the my characters that I've created that I've decided that they would be a group if I ever made them into, like, an NPC thing, and I did, like, a DM thing. Any of those that I decided would probably travel together or be together, I did a group shot, and it will show up on the last character from the group. So, in the next video, you will see the group shots of all 5 of these lovely Sims that are based off my D&D creations. Now, as far as creating Muse in Sims, I did find some tail options. One of them, I think, because technically I gave her 3 tails, and I didn't make them too huge because, again, I was partially using a Fenne fox as a inspiration of her color scheme and stuff like that, and they're pretty small, so, like, I gave her 3 tails, but they're sort of on the small side. And the tails that I found is either an option of 1 tail or 5 tails. And considering how large they are, I just went with the 1 tail for in Sims here. But yeah, if you've ever seen images of a Fenne fox or anything like that, they are very, very pale, like blonde-like colors with like a darker tip on their tail and stuff like that. So I did use like I forget which hairs it typically is made for, but I do have some like color overlays that are like give an ombre effect or streaks through certain hairstyles, and they're only made to particularly work with certain hairs, but in some cases they work with other hair, and they also sometimes affect accessories that you put on the sim depending on where that accessory is attached to. So if it's like near their head, or if it's in the hat category, like those different things can be affected by it. And I decided to fool with it just to see what it would do with the tail, and I did find an option where it does make the tip of the tail a little bit darker. It looks slightly odd, but I was like, I really want to, because the tail was mimicking the hair color for the most part, so that's why I was like, okay, because that's how it was sort of set up to do, was to mimic the hair color. So that's why I tried it, and I was like, you know what, it doesn't look horrible, and at least gives off the, like, yeah, this is supposed to be a darker tipped tail. So yeah, that's why I did that. And I gave her, like, I had this little chain. I forgot when I downloaded it, but it wasn't too long before this, but I did not download it with her in mind, but it was like a little chain skirt that goes underneath. And it's like a cool little detail. I imagine you also could style it with, like, if you're going for, like, a sim who is a celebrity and they're like a performer of some kind, like whether it's a singer or something like that, and they're doing some sort of performance, they could wear like a bodysuit with this chain on top of it. But because I have like little dangly things that comes out from underneath their skirt, I thought that was a good way to represent it. But so many things did not work with it. You probably noticed me going through so many shirts and so many skirts because they wanted to all clip with it. But ultimately, in the end, I wanted to give her a lot of like light colors. I definitely felt like pink and nudes were sort of more her thing. Now, I did give her some dark socks just because I thought they fit really well with how she is. I really liked them on her, and it's alright to have a little bit of dark with your pale, like the rest of your color, like light colors. It's fine. I think it looks good. I love how she turned out, and I had fun taking the photos of her because she is like a dancer, so a lot of her photos are meant to look a little bit dancey-like. So yeah, I hope you really like how Muse turned out. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts of her are. Do you like her story? Do you like her as a sim? Are you excited to see her get thrown into the D&D mansion house and see what happens in that whole chaos? But yeah, really love how she turned out. I think she's honestly adorable. And some of the people that are going to be in this house are like people that I feel like would not be the nicest of people. Like they'd see like someone that they can be like, oh, I can easily manipulate or make you do things for me. Obviously, Sims doesn't really work that way, but if we were realistically talking about these characters, I could see her being slightly gullible when it came to some of the other characters. So I'm sorry, Muse, you get wrapped into with all these other people. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you really liked how Muse turned out, make sure you hit that lovely like button. Subscribe if you're not already so that you don't miss out on future D&D Sims, well, D&D characters turned into Sims, as well as other things here on the channel. And also hit that little notification bell. Forget about the notification bell all the time, but you should hit it so that you know when a new video pops up. Typically, I try to put videos up on the same time every day around 4 or 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, but sometimes things happen. But anyway, thank you once again for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. But until then, bye bye!